There was a tidal wave of news coming out of the White House on a Friday, including the announcement that the controversial national security aide Sebastian Gorka is out. Gorka, outspoken defender for President Trump, especially on the Muslim travel ban, and he's been accused of having ties to far-right groups in Europe. But it's unclear whether Gorka was fired or if he resigned, or kind of a combustible combination of both. But back with me now, Maria Teresa Kumar, Malcolm Nance, joining our panel, MSNBC intelligence analyst Naveed Jamali. All right, so let's dive into this one because it is according to the Federalist that Gorka sent a blunt resignation to the White House saying, given recent events, it is clear to me that forces that do not support the MAGA, Make America Great Again promise, are for now ascendant within the White House. So, Malcolm, let me ask you first. Who do you think that Gorka is talking about there?
Well, he's obviously talking about the three generals who have introduced common sense and American decency back into the White House. General Kelly, General McMaster, and General Mattis at Defense Department. Gorka is an amazing character. You know, I can tell you from the counterterrorism community's perspective, he was never an expert in counterterrorism, and no one could figure out how he was rising up through the ranks, so to speak, by using his Islamophobic and bigoted, information that he was spewing out to the Special Operations and Marine Corps. And when he got, as a Fox News analyst, got brought over to the White House, it was just obvious that Steve Bannon had brought him over there. We have now reintroduced common sense back to this story and real expertise onto the National Security Council staff. Good riddance.
Well, so this morning, based on kind of the confusion over was it a resignation, was it a firing, I sent 3 different emails to the email addresses that I have for Hope Hicks, who is the new interim White House communications director. Looking at my email now just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, but I haven't gotten a response yet, just to clarify how this all went down, especially with the president being involved in his decision, with Yahoo News reporting that Gorka did resign after Kelly had told him that his security clearance was going to be revoked. So, Maria Teresa, does that mean that he felt neutered, basically, with his influence in this White House, and the ascendant, again, the reference to Gorka talking about the ascendant in the White House would be a Kelly figure?
I mean, I think the moment that Steve Bannon left the Oval Office officially, all of a sudden, all of those of his ilk felt that they were getting shuttered. And Kelly is trying to do as good of a job in ensuring that there is some sort of new type of discipline within the White House, making sure that when Gorka says that now they can no longer pursue Make America Great Again, he's immediately poking his finger into decorated generals who have sacrificed for this country. So it is actually the antithesis of what we should be looking for. And I think Kelly, again, he had a very hard time over at Department of Homeland Security, and very much I would consider an imperfect record in reining in ICE agents. But now he's trying to create some sort of discipline that mirrors what is usually seen within a commander chain of command in the military. Best of luck to him. It's not going to be easy.
Well, and he certainly, made a name for himself on TV. A lot of people have probably seen this interview, but I just want to remind you, Sebastian Gorka appearing on this network when he was confronted about whether or not the president was going to speak out against the violence that was displayed at a mosque in Minnesota where a bombing took place. Take a look.
There's a great rule. All initial reports are false. You have to check them. You have to find out who the perpetrators are. We've had a series of crimes committed, alleged hate crimes by right-wing individuals in the last 6 months that turned out to actually have been propagated by the left. So let's wait and see.
All right, so he says initial reports are false. So based on that theory, Gorka resigning is false. He was canned. But Naveed, what does it mean? What does it mean, though? Because there are so many people that wanted to see Sebastian Gorka leave. But Maria Teresa had brought up earlier, in discussions about the Friday deluge of information we got out of the White House with the trans ban for the military, Arpaio's pardon. Is this one step forward and then 2 giant leaps backward when it comes to what people expect?
Well, I think, there's a term that I'm sure Malcolm is very familiar with, and that is red badge. So this guy never had a security clearance. Red badge is what, in the intelligence community, you give to someone who doesn't have a clearance, who enters a secure facility. And the idea is that you're supposed to hide your monitors, make sure they can't see anything. There is no way that someone who is a national security advisor, who's working in national security, from that interview, who makes it sound like they have access to classified information, can do so without a security clearance. So take aside the bombastic claims, the sort of rhetoric that he's spewing, he didn't have a security clearance. How could he do his job? So at the end of the day, besides going on Fox, besides giving interviews, without a security clearance, he wasn't doing much in that administration. And frankly, I think that to say that the barrier to getting a security clearance is not being a Nazi, that, that seems like that's the path we're going on. And again, security clearance has become such a lightning rod to the professional people that work in government. When with the claims with Jared Kushner still having a clearance, it is refreshing on one level to see that at least Sebastian Gorka, with his history, was denied a clearance.
Naveed, thank you so much. Maria Teresa, Malcolm, I'm going to have you back with me in the next hour, so thank you all very much. And I want to show you this. We do have some new images that have come in from overnight. This is video of what